see you.
Perfect.
Yay. Hello.
How are you?
All the better for seeing your lovely face.
And you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to wait a little bit to see who all joins us.
No problem.
We are expecting a few more people. And for everybody watching, do you just want to introduce yourself?
I'm Bev. I'm from South Africa, Johannesburg, and I love anything to do with fabric and learning new abilities, new ways to recycle and learn from others, and yeah, just
It's
finding inspiration through anything.
It's really lovely to have the first person join this meetup from Joburg, my hometown. Is it cold there?
Okay. It's very cold. It
Okay.
is really, really cold.
Okay. I'm just waiting to see if anybody else joins us. I sent out a bunch of invites, but it might just be the two of us by the look of things.
Yeah, and I've had lots of problems getting on computers and cell phones. And as I said, technology doesn't like me.
Well done. You're here now.
Yay!
So for everybody watching, this evening's episode is called Upcycled Fabrics for Beginners. So we're going to have a conversation around upcycling fabrics for beginners. And if any of you are interested, I do have an online course especially designed for beginners if you are interested. And when I post this video, I will be sharing the online course in the links. And I actually developed the online course last year by asking questions of our community and getting answers back, and then putting all of that information and compiling it into one pretty extensive course that's got a bunch of ideas for where you can begin, how you can start working with small scraps. And the online course includes a bunch of links that then take you to even more value and even more learning. So if any of you are interested in kind of diving deeper into the information, there is an online course and I will be sharing it in the links when I post this video. So Bev, how long have you been upcycling fabric for?
For about, I'd say, about 7 years.
Okay, and you still feel like a beginner?
Sometimes it depends on what project I'm doing. You know, even if I get stuck, then I go outside, I look at the surroundings, I look at everything around me, I gain inspiration, and then I go back to what I'm doing. And I find that a lot of helpful, inspiring feelings by doing that, and it just helps me focus a lot more in achieving in what I'm trying to recycle and get the project done.
And what do you mostly work with?
I'm mostly working with, so I dye my own fabrics and then I cut it into scraps.
Okay.
And then I use those scraps in different ways, and I can also, what I started with initially was beading, but through actual needlework, so I incorporate that as well.
Okay, awesome. Hello, I see Carolyn is joining us. Hello, Carolyn. It's nice to see you there. Carolyn's just connecting to her audio. So, you enjoy dyeing your own fabric?
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's awesome. How did you get into dyeing?
I actually saw a video when I was looking on YouTube for something specific, and I came across this dyeing process, and I gave it a shot, and yeah, I loved it, and I bought a few colors, and yeah, I have my own little dyeing kit, and yeah, just want to experiment different ways, different techniques in making it stand out more.
Okay.
And yeah, just enjoying it.
That's wonderful. Carolyn, can we hear you yet? I see we've only got your video. We don't have sound from you. And hello, Marion, you've just joined us. It's nice to see you, ladies. Thank you for joining us. I'd love to see your face too, Marion. It looks like some of the other ladies are having tech challenges too. You see, Bev, you're not the only one.
Thank God.
No, we're all learning. We're all learning.
Oh my gosh.
And I must tell you, a couple of months ago, I was a complete Zoom newbie as well. So don't feel bad.
Okay.
Yes, don't feel
Yeah,
bad.
my son uses it all the time, and we've had such connection problems and everything. I just gave up. He knows it better than I do.
Yes, we often have people call in the help of their friends and family. So Carolyn and Marion, I see both of you have got your sound muted. So if you can find the button where you unmute your microphone, then I'll be able to hear you. Marion, even if you don't want us to see you, it would be lovely to hear your voice and also just to hear any questions that you have. Hello,
can you
Carolyn.
Hear me now?
Yes, I can, Carolyn.
There you go.
And it looks like Marion's audio is on too.
Yes, so, Melanie.
Oh, awesome. Yay, yay. So, Carolyn.
Can you see me?
I can't see you yet, Marilyn, but I can see Carolyn. So, Carolyn, where are you based? There we go, Marion, you're on.
I'm on.
Okay, Carolyn, now I can't hear you again.
No, I can't hear.
No, she's not talking.
Here we go.
Okay, I am in Pennsylvania, about 2 hours from Pittsburgh in USA.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And Marion, where are you?
Here in Fontainebleau in Randburg.
Oh, yay. So we've got 2 Joburg peeps. That's awesome. Yay. It's my hometown and I miss it a lot. I'm in the Western Cape now. So I miss Josie.
Must be cold there as well.
Oh, it's freezing. It's very cold. We've been seeing snow on the mountains lately. Oh, this is awesome. 2 South Africans with me. It feels like home. Thank you. And Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us all the way from the USA. So our conversation this evening is supposed to be about upcycled fabrics for beginners. So Carolyn, do you have any questions for me?
Not starting out. Thank you.
Okay, and Marion, do you have any questions?
Not really. I just would like to get some ideas.
Okay, so you're looking for ideas for ways of getting into it a bit more.
Yes, more information.
Okay, okay. So if you ladies are looking for kind of intensive information, I do have an online course. And when I put this video up on the group, I will share the link to my online course with you. And the online course I actually developed in conjunction with the Upcycled Cloth Collective group. So I did a series of questions about what beginners wanted to learn about. And then we kind of brainstormed for links and all of those kinds of things. And I mashed all that information together into an online course, which has a ton of extra stuff in it that I can't touch on in a half-hour conversation. So if you are interested, I will be posting the link to the online course when we've finished with this. Now, maybe it's also worth me explaining that when I started this group, I wasn't a huge upcycler. So I did a little bit of upcycling, but what really prompted me to start the group was because I actually inherited a stash of fabric from a deceased estate. My partner's mom had passed away and he had bags and bags of old cloth that he didn't know what to do with. Some of it the rats had got into, and some of it was in better condition, some of it was in worse condition. There were patterns that she'd cut out and not finished stitching up. There were fabrics that she'd been gifted by people that were almost impossible to use because they were horrible polyester. And I looked at this stuff and didn't quite know what to do with it. And then I decided that I was going to print on some of this fabric because I love my lino printing. And I realized that it was a great resource here. I had all this patchy fabric that I could print on, and it didn't really matter if it didn't come out the way I wanted it to because I wasn't attached to the outcome. This wasn't finished garments. It wasn't special items. It was stuff that would essentially have ended up in the landfill. And so I began to work with it. And then, of course, the Cloth Collective group exploded around me. It went viral, and it grew at an incredible rate. Our rate of growth has slowed down now, but in our second year, we were adding 100 new members every single day. It was insane. And as it grew, I found the group pushing back on me. It was quite weird because I'd kind of started the group and now was the source of the information. But then as more and more people joined and came in with their ideas, the group started pushing back on me and challenging me harder and harder to walk my talk. So that in a 5-year process, I've gone from just kind of dabbling to upcycling absolutely everything. I try not to buy anything new if I can help it. I'll only buy very, very special items that are kind of customized for a very specific purpose. Like I got fur-lined boots for Uniondale because it's so cold down here. And I got a good down jacket for the cold weather and that kind of thing. But if it's not something specific, I will try at all costs to use the resources that I have. So I find really that the key for beginners is to just start looking at the things you already have and finding ways to use them in more clever ways. So it's just about kind of sitting with your resources and then just thinking about them. How can I use them? What else can I do? I find also a very, very good place for beginners to start is with mending. Mending is a great place to learn. And it's also one of those places, very often the items that you mend might be older, so you're less attached to the outcome if it doesn't come out exactly the way you want it to. One of the techniques I use quite a lot, because I'm quite lazy and I like to play things a bit loose and fast, and I know nothing about pattern making. I've been in the clothing industry my entire adult life, but I've never bothered to learn about pattern making. I've always left that to the experts.
It's not easy.
Yes, yes. So what I tend to do is if I have a garment that has a good fit, then I'll work with that. So if, for example, I had a friend gave me a dress that she bought for me at a thrift store that had these spaghetti straps. Now, I never ever wear spaghetti straps. I can't. I just can't pull it off, and I'm uncomfortable in them, and my boobs are too big. So what I did was I cut the top off the dress, and then I stitched it onto a t-shirt that had a nice fit. And that gave me a beautiful dress that I wore for quite a while until I decided to add patches on top of it and turn it into a real art piece. So I find that working with existing garments, especially stretch knits, is also a great place to start for a beginner, because your stretch knit fabric is very, very forgiving. And you know, if you've got something that's a great cut and a great fit already, then just adding to that is a much easier process than cutting patterns from scratch. And I've given myself a lot of practice. Like I've had tops where they've been too short, the sleeves are short, or they sit around the midriff or something like that. Then I find another top that's worn out and starting to make little holes, and then I cut the bottom part off and I stitch the two shirts together, and now I've got these wonderful long functional garments that keep me properly warm, but without having to go out and actually cut patterns and learn how to cut patterns. So for beginners, I really recommend that if you've got garments that are old that fit you well, then try to find ways to re-engineer those and chop them up and combine them together, because very often you can get some fantastic results, and it's not too difficult to do. And if it doesn't work out the way you want it to, there's not much loss, because it's something old that you've now revitalized. Are there any questions? Any questions? No questions.
Well, I guess one of my things is a lot of the fabric that I have is like my husband's old dress shirts,
Okay.
and I am used to using a pattern, and so I've been a little hesitant to lay everything out and figure out how to use the fabric because it's a lot of fabric, but it's not like flat and square like I'm used to using with
Yes.
store-bought fabric.
Yes.
So that's kind of where my hesitation is how to fit the pattern pieces that I'm used to using onto the not square fabric and get my line, my fabric lined up properly so I don't get a wonky seam or something like that.
Okay. Now, I would suggest when you've finished with this video that you go and do a search for Michelle Paganini, Paganini. She was a member of our community for a while, and sadly, we ended up removing her from the group because somewhere along the line she didn't read the guidelines properly. But she is a master at re-engineering dress shirts. And she has some amazing patterns that you can buy that teach you how to do that process. So she specializes in creating patterns that actually work off dress shirts. So she's very worth looking into. And I know she has a Facebook group also. So if you look for Paganini Patterns, that's Paganini. She's got a Facebook group. I would recommend you find her and you speak to her because she's got some really fantastic patterns and some really fantastic ideas. People respond very well. They say they've tried her patterns, they work really well, and she teaches you all the tips and tricks for working with dress shirts. So I think it would be worth having a conversation with her.
Thank you.
Pleasure, pleasure. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, on that, I have old ties that someone gave me,
Yes.
and I've been able to get them out and sort of see what sizes they are and sort of create my own patterns. I mean, I draw up my own patterns for a living, and I found some very easy ways to handle the ties in ways that no one would have thought of handling them because they are challenged and they are giving some, like you don't want to start with them. You just want to put them aside and not handle them as yet. So I've
Okay.
come to understanding their play in making garments and other stuff and really recycling them and not just throwing them in the trash.
Okay, so your recommendation is that raw beginners don't start with ties.
No.
Okay,
Not at
okay.
all.
That's great advice.
It's too complicated. I mean, even when you open them up, there's not much there to deal with unless you connect them with others. And then you've got seams in different ways. And it just becomes a bit of a fear for people. So start with
Okay.
something lighter.
Okay, okay, that's great advice. Thank you so much, Bev. Another thing I would say for beginners is start with socks. You know, we've all got socks. And I've found socks can keep me busy for ages. I've learned how to darn socks, which my partner teases me about quite a lot, because when I first met him, I said to him I'd never darn his socks, and then a couple of years later I came running in with my first socks that I darned for him. And now I can't wait when I've done the laundry to find things that I can mend for him, you know. So it's kind of come full circle, and I find socks are wonderful for extending sleeves. They're nice for making holders for water bottles and all sorts of interesting things that you can do with them. You can cut them open and stitch them together and make beanies. And, you know, a lot of people just throw their socks away when they've got holes in. But I find socks are a fantastic resource. They've got stretch and they're already shaped.
Patchwork.
Yeah, patchwork, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And for those of you who follow me, you might have seen my garments that I make using little patches. So not long after I started the Cloth Collective, I discovered a group on Facebook called Borrow, B-O-R-O. And it's a Japanese method of using running stitches to mend things. And I became completely obsessed with it. Borrow is now my favorite pastime. And I've discovered that if you cut small patches, particularly from stretch knit fabrics because they don't fray, you can borrow stitch them onto all sorts of things. And in fact, I've got a piece of sewing here that I can show you. This is a jacket of my partner's, Pete's. And some of these are woven fabrics. They're not all stretch knits. So some are t-shirt fabrics, but some are also woven fabrics. And it was a jacket of his. Here you can see the original fabric over there. And it's got batting and lining and the whole lot, but this soft outer layer of fabric was becoming very worn out and was making holes. And I've now covered almost the entire jacket in this casing of borrow stitched patches. And the borrow stitching washes really well because it's this running stitch, and I cross hatch them. I like to cross hatch them just to make sure that the patches stay down. And I've got a couple of dresses that I've made that way. And I know they're a labor of love because they take a long time to make, but the garments, the finished garments, are very robust and wash really well. I've got a dress that I made that way that I wear once a week, and it's just beautiful. Every time I wear it, somebody asks me where I got it. And the lovely thing is when the patches then start to wear, or if they come a little bit loose, you just do some more borrow stitching, or you put another patch on, and nobody knows any different. So I like to make these garments with patches on like that. And then what I do is I gather really old garments that are very thin but very soft to the touch. And then I gather them into colorways so that I've got like a range of greens and blues or a range of reds and burgundies. And then I work with those. And that method has worked really well for me. It's been really successful for me. One of the other common things that I've worked on quite a bit is the crotches of denims because they always get worn out. So I've done quite a few projects where I've stitched fabric on, but then I've carried on borrow stitching on the rest of the trousers so that it doesn't look too contrived. So it doesn't look like it was a crotch that I fixed. So it looks like it's a decorative finish on the whole garment. So for example, I did a project for my first book where we made some display fabric, and I cut the centers of the shapes that I dyed out, and I ended up with these round circles of t-shirt fabric. And I had them for years. I never knew what I was going to do with them, but I couldn't throw them away. I didn't have the heart because they were leftover remnants from the first book that I ever published. And I've now stitched them onto a pair of denims, and when I wear them out, everybody wants to know where I got them, and everybody raves about them. And I took a really old pair of denims that were really, anybody else would have thrown away. They were ripped right across the bum. And I've repaired them with these circles, and I'm wearing them again quite successfully. I've been wearing them now for 4 or 5 years again. So it's actually amazing how long you can extend the lifespan of a garment if you just put your mind to it. Are there any other questions or comments? Marion, let me unmute you. Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Yes. No, I'm interested in the socks. I've just finished patching an old jersey for my husband, which we call his house jersey. And I used stretch t-shirt material. But
Okay.
I also didn't realize that, you know, socks would be ideal. So next time I'm certainly going to try that.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. I've even used pantyhose.
Gosh, I never would have thought of it.
Nice for lining.
No, for these patchwork dresses that I make, I found some lovely green pantyhose in that stash from the deceased estate, and I've cut them up in squares and I've stitched them in. And they may not last as long as the other fabrics that I put in there, but as I say, when they become worn out, then I just whack another patch on top of that. Nobody will ever know the difference. So, and they've lasted surprisingly well, much better than I thought. I think the borrow stitching supports them. You know, if you add enough hand stitching, then it fixes it. Then something else I might add for beginners is I think a lot of beginners kind of get held up because maybe they're not so friendly with their sewing machine. So I'm somebody who struggles with a sewing machine. I get so frustrated with a machine that, like, I'd rather not sew than fight with a machine that's fighting me back. And I know that it's all about learning about your machine and all that, but I'm not a very patient person.
Don't worry, I've had the same.
Yeah, so I would actually rather hand stitch a thing. And I've got to say that I love the hand stitching. I find the hand stitching very, very therapeutic. And I've hand stitched a number of garments that had holes in and things that I've just hand stitched little patches and things on. And then I go out and someone says to me, gosh, that looks like a designer garment that you're wearing. Where did you which fashion designer made it for you? You know, and it's just something that I've hand stitched and mended with hand stitching. So
even embroidery, you can do embroidery on and make
yes.
it reusable and look very nice.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So don't be afraid to play. I also like to play with contrasting thread. So as I'm getting older, I don't see very well. So I really prefer to stitch with a contrasting thread to a matching one, because otherwise I can't see what the hell I'm doing. And that contrasting thread can just add a little bit of life to something that, again, will make it look like a designer garment instead of, you know, if you make it look on purpose. Like, you can try to use a matching thread and do a lousy job of it, and then people go, oh, look, you try to make it look like it used to be and you failed. Or you can use a contrasting thread and do something that kind of pops out. And then people are very impressed because they think you've done something very creative and very special. So don't be scared to, I see Carolyn laughing. Don't be afraid to play with contrasting thread and contrasting fabrics and stuff like that when you're mending and that kind of thing. I find that if I'm not certain that I'm going to be able to make it look like it used to look, then making it look like something else on purpose is often a better strategy. Are there any other questions? Any other comments? Okay, maybe.
What would you do with?
I'm listening.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to know. I've got some. You know, it's netting that you use under underskirts. You know, it's like a petticoat netting. Somebody's thrown a whole lot out. What would you do with that?
Grocery bags, vegetable grocery bags.
But it's. Oh, okay. Yes.
I've also used it before. I've used it to sandwich, you know, the little bits of threads and stuff that you end up with, that you can't do anything with, that people want to stuff dog beds with. I've sandwiched that between 2 layers of netting before, and then just put some running stitches across that. And then being able to use that for bags and other things, because now you've got a double layer of the netting with this other stuff in between. And it looks quite nice. I actually also, I've used it as backing, as a support. So I had a lot of cream colored remnants that were all odd shapes. And I used white thread and I used the net as a backing to stitch that onto. And then was able to make myself this beautiful cream colored fabric in quite a large piece that I could then treat as a normal fabric and cut up and turn into other things. So that was quite useful. Okay,
Yeah,
with-
I've also
I'll
used
try that
that.
Okay.
I've also used that.
Okay, awesome. Hello, Mita, you made it. Hello. Yay. We have a member of our admin team has managed to sneak in. Right on the last minute, Mita. Yay. Okay, so while we're waiting for her to connect to her sound, I can't hear you, Mita.
What do you call that now? There's a name.
Okay, so have any of you got any other comments? Is there something that you like working with? Any tips you've got for beginners?
No,
Okay.
still learning.
And Bev says she still feels like a beginner after 7 years of upcycling.
I'm gonna have to get my earphones. I can't hear anything.
Oh, but I can hear you. Yay. Okay, she's coming. And Zoom's going to cut us off shortly, so I'm wondering how far we're going to get with it.
Where's my earphones?
Anyway.
You know what I also like using is what I've used before is I've taken an old laundry bag that has broken into pieces and I've recycled every bit of that into a bag or a grocery bag or something like that. It's never gone into the trash.
Yes, yes, that's a great strategy. I also used some of the smaller pieces from the deceased estate and made small bags, like little bags about this size, that I gifted to people. You know, a lot of people will be very thankful for a little bag that they can just slip their cell phone into, or like just a cell phone and a driver's license, or a cell phone and a lip ice, or something like that.
Yeah, I do that for old age community in my area.
Yes.
I'm always donating clothes or something that they can use, or I'm making something that they can benefit from.
Hello, Mita. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, so much better for seeing your lovely face. Hello.
I'm doing well. How is everybody?
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, I popped in. I guess this is a different meeting.
Oh yes. Okay. So you've caught the group Zoom, and I'm doing a team Zoom in half an hour. So you're early and late.
Yeah. All right.
But it's all good. I'm glad we've got you here now, because now the community can see your lovely face. So
thank you.
Lisa is one of our team members. She's one of our admin team members who works behind the scenes.
Hello, ladies.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you all. Yes, my name is Mita, and I live in North Carolina.
Okay.
and she does a fantastic job to help us
you.
behind the scenes. Yeah, I have to
It's
say,
a pleasure.
Our admin team is incredible. They are such wonderful, generous ladies, and they're all about giving people second chances, which I love. And they've always got the best interests of the group at heart, which is very, very meaningful.
What about?
Taking care.
Thank you. Okay,
my pleasure.
Okay, are you going to make it to the later one, Mita?
I am. I was just kind of, what I was trying to do is make sure that I can get on without having to, do all that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and check out and go take care of a few things. But it was a pleasure meeting you all, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
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 Marion, did you have a question for us?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
I just wondered what the weather was like in North Carolina.
I think a bit warmer than here by us. Okay,
well,
so
it's 89 Fahrenheit in Pennsylvania, so.
Oh, cool. That's much warmer than here by us, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so ladies, Zoom has flashed me the pop-up box that says that it's going to cut us off shortly. So
yeah, I also see that.
Yes, so I would like to thank you all for showing up for us. I appreciate it so very much. It's not a conversation if I'm all on my own. So thank you so much for showing up for this Zoom meetup. I appreciate it very much. And I hope you all learned something that you can use from it.
I always learn something from you, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
Always.
Thank you. Thank you for that
Thank
feedback.
you very much. Thank you.
Have a
Thank you
lovely
very much.
evening.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you,
Good to
Carolyn.